Are you ready? Can crush us. It don't really get no better than this the podcast that you're looking for if you're really heavy into wrestling. Hosted by the Mark. Energy that's so amazing. Gotta keep it entertaining. Rep the Can Crusher Nation. Yeah, you know what's going down in the ring. Lights out when you hit a ding ding. Knock them out like boom bada bing. Hold it down, you can crown me the king. Got a shout out to the Miz and Duke the Dumpster. We choke slamming everybody. Power driving, hit them with a face buster. Yeah, this the show you need and it ain't no need for waiting. Mark, hold it down for the Can Crusher Nation. All about wrestling and keep it entertaining. Can Crushers Wrestling Podcast. Time to break them, let's go. Yeah, Can Crushers. Yeah, Can Crushers. Let's go.
Hi everyone, this is Ringside Rain and you're listening to Can Crushers Podcast. And now, here is your host, Mark the Mark Martinez.
And welcome back to another Can Crushers Wrestling Podcast, the Spotlight Edition. I am your host, Mark the Mark Martinez. I'll never be able to hit it like Ringside Rain did for me on that intro, so I'm just going to stop. Maybe. Probably not, but you know how it is. Guys, welcome back to another show. Super excited to have my guest coming on. First time talking to somebody in Missouri. Yeah, a little fun fact that I'm going to start the show off when I get the Iceman, Howard Moritz, on the show to chit-chat stuff. This is really cool. It's a generic teaser, but you're going to have to wait because I have to know how much he knows about this. And then we'll dive into wrestling. 20 plus years in the business, up and down the road, New Breed Wrestling, Pony Express, Kansas Wrestling Alliance, Mid-States Wrestling, and the list can go on for the Iceman. So I can't wait to hear some of these stories. Hopefully he dives in and gives us a funny road story or two of 20 years. You've had to pull some shenanigans or something like that on the road. So yeah. Super excited to hear about that. I have a comparison, so yeah, let's see how bad I am on this. When you're 20 years into the business, you morph essentially so many times, but from what I've seen, I have a comparison who the Iceman is. Hold on, because it's going to be good, or the Iceman's going to punch me through the phone. Guys, you know what we have to do here? We have to tell you where we are. We are everywhere. Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, anywhere that you listen to podcasts. The one that you're listening to on right now probably is where you'll find us. So we're super excited about that. Please take a moment, listen to all of them, but the one you're listening to, rate, review, drop us a review. That really helps, boost us up, continuing to grab more members in the Can Crusher Nation. We love that. You could write 5 stars, but I hate the guy. He's an idiot. Whatever. That's cool. I love stuff like that because I go back and read them. We get notifications. You want to be part of the show? You're in wrestling. You're a talent. You're a referee. You're a promoter. Anything like that. Drop us an email at cancrusher69@gmail.com. We'll set you up. We'll get a show on just like the Iceman's here. Or drop us a DM in any of our socials. Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook. All of it is at cancrusher69. You'll find us. One more thing we like doing for you. We like giving you 10% off when you order from Collar and Elbow. Al Snow and the Hooligans down at collarandelbow.com, at Collar and Elbow wrestling brand. Man, it's like I had some beers or something already today. I have not. I'm just a little verklempt about some college football going on. Nonetheless, Collar and Elbow has some great apparel, hats, hoodies, tees, all the cool stuff. When you use a promo code, you'll save 10%. What is the promo code, Mark? It's Can Crushers. All one word, capital C in Can, capital C in Crushers. You'll save 10% from Collar and Elbow. That's enough about me. That's enough about the show. We're going to take a break, and then when we come back around, we're going to have the Iceman, Howard Moritz, coming on to talk about his 20-plus years in the business and get some really cool information from the top of this. So we're going to school first, then we'll go and learn about his wrestling career.
Wrestling a love and a passion we all share. I've started a wrestling brand, the wrestling brand. A brand founded on the aspects of wrestling. Two entities working together to create a product that connect emotionally for people everywhere. Collar and Elbow is the brand. Passion and love for wrestling is the drive. I am Al Snow, and this is Collar and Elbow, the wrestling brand.
And welcome back to Can Crushers Wrestling Podcast, guys. You heard how excited I was to talk to the Iceman. He's on the line. But before we get to wrestling, and before we get to anything cool that he does in the ring, man, welcome to the show, first and foremost. I should do that. How are you?
Hey, I'm good, and thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for reaching out. Always excited. You're probably the first one from Missouri that I've had on the show. So this is really, check that off your bucket list, being the first person on Can Crushers, okay?
Awesome, yeah.
Had others, farther. And in Missouri, I need to know a little bit about Missouri wrestling and everything but Chillicothe. This was a drunken moment about a week ago that somebody brought up to me. What is it known for? Because this is unbelievable that it blew my mind.
Well, Chillicothe is the home of sliced bread. And what I mean by the home of sliced bread is, because when I tell people that, they're like, well, there's always been sliced bread. Yes, you've always been able to, ever since bread was invented, you've been able to slice it with a knife, right?
Right.
Well, the reason why we are called the home of sliced bread is because I think it was like an engineer and a local jeweler got together and they created this machine that you feed the loaves of bread through and it slices it, and then you're able to bag it and sell it. You can kind of mass produce loaves of bread to be sold in a retail setting. So, and the blades, I believe the blades are like a diamond encrusted blade, which is where the jeweler came in. So you get like a better cut, makes it like twice as sharp or something. But yeah, so we are known as being the home of sliced bread. The actual machine itself is sitting in our little local museum. It used to be in the Smithsonian, but it has been brought back to Chillicothe, quite a few years ago. And I mean, our town is ate up with it. We have a parade. We even have a grocery store called the Sliced Bread Market here. There's different murals painted around town about it. So yeah, that's one of our biggest claims to fame.
That is amazing that they ran with that. Like, I worked, growing up, I worked in a grocery store. Sometimes you're in a bakery helping out, whatever. I've used one of those machines. I never thought I'd be talking about it on a wrestling podcast. Really, really, this was a question that came up between ourselves, just sitting around having a few beers in a garage, and they're like, where did sliced bread come from? Those questions later on in the night that are ridiculous. I'm like, I don't know. So I typed it in, where did sliced bread come from? And this interview has been booked for a couple weeks. Your hometown and this just meshed at the same time. And I'm like, you have to be kidding me. I'm talking to Mr. Sliced Bread then. You're getting that. You are the Mr. Sliced Bread of Can Crushers. I'm sorry.
All right. No, that's good. Yeah. Well, it's the good thing that we're known about it. I mean, my town and the surrounding county, we're definitely known for some bad stuff as well. So,
all right, let's take the sliced bread then and run with it, because we don't want the bad stuff. We don't want.
Well, the one big, like, not so good thing that we're known for is actually not really cool, but it's an interesting deal. It's we're also known for having the oldest couple ever on death row.
Wow. From sliced bread to prison. Let's go.
Yeah, you bet.
All right. All right, 20 plus years in the wrestling business. At the beginning of the show, in the intro, I listed some of them that you've been in and around, held titles for. But I got to go all the way back when you're the little Iceman. Who introduced you to wrestling? Uncle Joe, mom, dad? Who said you have to watch this?
That would be my grandpa on my mom's side. He was absolutely ate up with it. I mean, he was your poster boy of fans who truly 100% believed every single thing he's seen on TV. I mean, that guy's a good guy. That guy's a bad guy. They hate each other. They're going to beat each other up. I mean, you could not tell him any different. Of course, obviously, when I was little, I didn't know any different.
Right.
So every week we would go to my grandparents' house for like a weekly dinner. It was almost like a family reunion every week.
Are you Italian? Because that's the same thing. That I'm going to cut you off for a second because it's the same exact story that I have, by the way. Like, do you know me? Because this is exactly the same story that I have. Go ahead.
Yeah, it was crazy. He had like aunts and uncles and cousins, come from pretty far away just to hang out at my grandparents' house. We'd have dinner. Me and my cousins would go outside and play and whatever. Well, my family and I were the ones that lived the closest. Like we were like 15, 20 minutes away. So we'd always be the last ones there at the house. Well, it'd always be right around the time wrestling would come on. And of course, my grandparents had like 3 or 4 channels. And so while my grandma was off doing whatever else at the other part of the house, my grandpa would go turn TV on and he'd sit and watch wrestling. And so I decided to go in there one day and sit and watch it. And he looked at me and he gave me the rules. You sit down, you be quiet, don't ask questions, don't do nothing, just sit here and watch. And I just got hooked on watching his reaction. You know, how he would just get so worked up over the heels doing, something underhanded.
Yep.
And then of course just going crazy when the baby faces would win or whatever. And so that got me hooked, seeing how passionate he was. So then I turned my focus to the stories, the characters, everything else that was on TV. And then I got hooked on that. And so I blame my grandpa for getting me hooked on wrestling. So much to the point that I kind of remember telling him, I want to do that. And of course he's like, oh, okay, yeah, sure. But yeah, so it was my grandpa.
I just got chills because I'm thinking about my grandfather right now too, because that's the exact same story. We would go over our Saturday night was Italian food night, whatever, sit there, eat. Mom would go help clean. My dad and my brother would probably leave or whatever, but I would always stay around. And at 6:05 Saturday night, NWA TBS, listen, you sit, you watch this. He watched everything. He didn't understand because this was before Hogan fought Flair, and he's like, why are there so many titles? There can't be that many world champions. And he embedded this into my mind that, my mom duly named me. I'm a Mark. I really am. So I was in that my whole life, and he just kept saying, this is what it is. This guy will never fight this guy. He's scared of him because he was older. He didn't understand that WWE was never going to, back in that time, fight NWA or anything like that. And he was always mad. And he hated Flair. He loved Hogan. And just the unbelievable pomp and circumstances with it, just like your story, trickled into me. And then I started like, man, I really like the Midnight Express. And he yelled at me because I wasn't allowed liking the Midnight Express. They were bad people. So
Absolutely.
I understand your story. Nobody has had the same story as me so far. So awesome.
Yeah, it was crazy because then we, and I may be jumping ahead or whatever, but then
no, go ahead.
We moved to, my dad at the time was a Boilermaker, and we got moved to Texas. So we lived in West Texas, and that's when I was introduced to world class championship wrestling. So I got to see the Von Erichs, the Freebirds,
Nice.
Gentleman Chris Adams, all those guys. And then when we came back to Missouri, that's when I discovered WWE along with more of the NWA before it to WCW. Transformed into WCW. And so then I'm all like, at that point, I'm just completely ate up with it, and I had seen a few live events here and there. My went with my grandpa a few times or whatever. I had gotten into wrestling in high school, and so not that so that was kind of my next transition is from being a fan of pro wrestling, I wanted to get into amateur wrestling, and so wrestling's been like a huge part of my life ever since I was just a little kid. So
yeah, it's a progression. Once you learn about it, you think that, because I did at least, wrestling for your school or, JOs or whatever that we call it up here, I thought I could do a drop kick, and like your first practice, you're like, this is not, they tell you right off the bat, this is not what you see on TV. And I'm like, right. Oh man, there's no ring here even. What the heck's going on?
Right. Yeah.
So a little bit of a downfall. You said you went to Texas. Please tell me, did you get to go to the Sportatorium then and watch WCCW?
No, I never got to experience the Sportatorium.
Oh, bummer. Neither have I in Pennsylvania, but I still want to go and just walk on the grounds where it's at. I really do, because 4 o'clock on, once you get out of school, AWA or World Class, let's just say it that way, World Class would come on ESPN, and then I was engulfed by that, because later on in the night, everything else came on. I live wrestling. So you talk about how you went and you wrestled for your school and everything. How does it transition then become, I'm going to a wrestling school, and how do you make that pick saying, I'm going there?
I didn't attend wrestling school until I was in my early 20s. I was married to my first wife at the time, and I knew nothing about independent wrestling. Didn't even know it existed. All I knew was what I seen on TV.
Yep.
And then I started to catch, a little bit of talk about, Harley Race has a school. This guy has a school. This guy has a school. Well, I wasn't in a position to up and move or pay the, tuition to go down to Harley Race's school. So, it was one of those, I kind of put it on the back burner, because anytime I'd bring it up to anybody, especially my first wife, she was like, yeah, I don't think so. I don't think so. And of course, I got a family. My daughter at the time was 2, I think. And so anyway, I ended up discovering, I was somewhere and I seen a flyer for an independent show in a town about 20 miles north of Chillicothe. So I talked to my first wife and some other friends who liked wrestling. I said, let's just go check it out, because I never knew anything about indie wrestling. So there was nobody I knew on the card, of course.
Yeah.
And so
been there.
So anyway, yeah. So we just went because it was wrestling. So we went, we paid our ticket price, $10 a piece, whatever it was. And we're having a good time. And all of a sudden, out come this tag team with a guy as their manager that looked really familiar to me. Well, it didn't hit me. I knew that guy from high school. He was about a year or two ahead of me in high school. And I was like, holy crap. And I hadn't seen that guy in years at that time. So intermission comes, I go up and talk to him, and I'm like, dude, tell me how you got in this. I've always wanted to. And so he introduced me to the promoter. Promoter said, come over to St. Joseph, Missouri, which is like an hour west of me. He said, come over and I'll put you through a tryout. Fantastic. That didn't go so well.
That was going to be, we're going to wrap to that. I love knowing tryout stories and then like first day of real training, but go ahead.
And so anyway, so that following week I go over there and I go to the guy's house, knock on the door, and I'm expecting us to go to like a really nice facility. Like, because in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, you can go to college to become an engineer and you can go to college to become a professor, whatever, right? So I'm thinking there's got to be a school to learn how to do this. So this guy's about to take me to his school. No. We went around the house.
I know where this is going. Go ahead.
Yeah. We walked around his house And in his backyard was the ring that I just seen that weekend prior set up in his backyard.
Yep.
And he's all like, so you got some gym shorts, knee pads, anything like that? I said, yeah. He goes, okay, get dressed. So we got in the ring in his backyard. And so first and foremost, I'm thinking, well, this is not what I had in mind. This is just not, but I'm going to go with it, right? It's a wrestling ring. I wanted to get into it. Now, keep in mind, the only wrestling I know is from high school.
Right. Essentially Greco-Roman amateur. Yeah.
Yes. The only other wrestling I know is what I watch on TV. I have never done any of those moves, taken any of those moves, nothing. He grabs a hold of me and says, this is a hip toss. And before I could get anything out of my mouth, he forced me over in a hip toss, and I landed on my left shoulder and partially separated it.
Oh, God. First move ever done.
Yeah. And I stood up, and my arm's just kind of hanging there. And he goes, okay, come on, let's do that again. And I said, no, I don't want to do this at all. He's like, why? What's wrong? And I said, you not see what my arm looks like? I mean, it's just kind of hanging there. And so I left. I said, yeah, nope. I said, I'm out. So that was my very, very first experience in a wrestling ring under a so-called trainer before I got turned on to the school I actually attended and learned how to wrestle there.
Well, let me stop you there. I don't know if you're still good friends with this guy or anything like that. Maybe that's where now, being 20 years into the business and a lot of people listen and everything, due diligence of doing research, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
There are a lot of great
shady
trainers out there.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to go shady first, but okay.
Oh, yeah. No, they're yeah. If somebody wants to get into the wrestling business, please do your research. Look for a good, solid school, a good, solid trainer, because there are those guys out there, like the guy I ran into my very first time, that's looking to make a quick buck off somebody who doesn't know any different. They would teach you wrong. They will hurt you. They will take your money and not lose a wink of sleep about it.
Yep. That's 20 years in the business, guys. So listen, he knows. He was one of those, essentially, who could have been ruined from day one.
And I damn near was. I come back home, told my wife about it. I obviously eventually got my shoulder right. And it was probably 3-4 months before I even thought about wanting to get back into it again. But of course, at that time, I had discovered a much better school and much better trainers. So,
yeah. So that's due diligence. I like when I'm sorry that you got hurt your first time, but I love that real life right there. That's 20 years into business, guys. That's due diligence. So, all right. So you go through training, your real training. Then let me just pseudo it that way. Your real training starts. How's that first day go? And did you ever have those thoughts of like, damn, this is bringing me back to that hip toss?
Oh my gosh. The very first night in training, I got ran through an initiation that they always put all new, that school always ran their new students through just to basically see if they're going to have what it takes. And halfway through it, I had to run outside and throw up because it was brutal. Absolutely brutal. So the trainer at that time come out and said, normally if anybody stops, we make them come back the next week and start all over. He said, but you got 5 minutes to get yourself right and get back in there and finish. So yeah, it brought me back. I'm like, my gosh, if this is what it's like, what in the world am I getting myself into?
But you overcame that in 20 years later. 22, actually. Yeah. I keep rounding, but yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I cleaned myself up, took a big drink of water, ran right in there and finished the drills. And they said, okay, come back next week. We'll get you signed up. And so I signed up and started training 2 or 3 times a week. We're working around a full-time job and everything. And yeah, here I am all these years later.
how long off of training, you start this training, when do you get your first match? Because this is what blows my mind sometimes. Sometimes I hear 8 weeks, 6 months, a year. So where are you? Are you in that middle, or are you going to a couple days later I started wrestling?
No, I had my first match about 3 months after I started training. And I only got that match because they had a couple of cancellations like a week prior to the show. And the promoter didn't have enough time to round up anybody else. This is at the very beginning of the internet. Because this would have been, I made my debut in January of 2000. So reaching out to somebody on Facebook or anything like that just wasn't
happening. No,
wasn't happening. I mean, unless you had your own email address, and so it wasn't easy to just go out and find guys, to bring them in. And he had already had everybody that was on his roster already booked up for the show, and he had a handful of guys, training. So promoter come up to me and said, "Do you think you're ready?" I said, "I absolutely feel like I'm ready." He said, "Do you have a gimmick? Do you have gear? Do you have all that?" I said, "No and no." He goes, he's like, "Okay." Well, because at that time I'm just training, and we had yet to even start talking about character, the gimmick, anything. So he goes, "Well, you got exactly 1 week to come up with all that." Okay. So within that week's time, I was able to come up with my very first outfit that I wrestled in, which was it left a little bit to be desired. It was silver leather pants, a mesh see-through shirt,
like those football practice jerseys we used to wear.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. I come out with what I call a Mr. T starter kit.
Okay.
I went to like a dollar store and bought a bunch of these fake gold chains. Right. I had just a bunch, and then I put on a hat. I call it like a golf hat.
Okay.
Sunglasses. Found a real shiny silver shirt in the same store I bought my pants, and used it kind of like a ring jacket. And then I said, "Okay, here I am." And he said, "Okay, now what about your name and your gimmick?" And so I said, "Well, let's go with the Iceman." And he said, "Okay, well, tell me about the Iceman." Well, when I was back in high school, I did a lot of talent shows. I went to a lot of school dances, and that's what I was known for. I was the dancer. I was known for getting into talent shows and doing, dance routines, rapping, singing, whatever. And about that time was when,
yeah, come on, say it. I know who you.
and it wasn't really around that time. I mean, I think he had been on the scene for a little bit, but Vanilla Ice was a big thing.
It was huge. He was huge.
So in high school, I got dubbed as, my hometown's version of Vanilla Ice. And so it was the first thing that came to my mind was the Iceman. Plus, a little bit has to do with, I was a fan of Iceman King Parsons.
Okay.
If you look at some of his early stuff, he wore the shiny outfits. He was dancing, coming to the ring, stuff like that. He'd incorporate dance moves in his matches. I do all that same stuff too. So, and I had gotten into DJing a little bit around that time, and my DJ name was DJ Howie Ice because my first name is Howard. So I was DJ Howie Ice, and then I was like, you know what? Let's just, we'll transform into the Iceman. And of course, the promoter wanted to create like a backstory because we had programs they'd hand out. So the original backstory of the Iceman was a retired dancer, rapper, singer from Hollywood, California, turned pro wrestler.
There you go. I love. Normally, you were on a roll. Normally, I stop you and say, "Hey, here's who I have you pictured as," because I've watched some matches. I watched once you came out to Vanilla Ice. I'm like, I have something for him. But so the three wrestlers that I gave you, Iceman Parson, literally because of the name and the whole Missouri. I knew you probably had to watch World Class, so I knew that you at least had seen him. I didn't know you loved him. So, okay. So Parson, Brian Christopher, because you keep the damn shit up in the ring a lot too.
Right.
And then to go current, KO, Kevin Owens.
Okay.
Those are the three that that's who I will think of you as. Close?
Wow.
Well, you said Iceman Parsons, so I'm good on that one. But yeah. Brian Christopher and KO, am I close on either one of those as like your new Iceman as you built through the years?
I can see Brian Christopher now. I never thought of it before, but I can see that now, especially once he,
with Too Sexy. Yeah.
Yes,
that version of him. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. I can definitely see that now. KO. Wow.
It's because of the stunner. I'm not going to lie. Come on.
Oh yeah. Well, I only just recently started doing the stunner, and of course I call it the ice cold stunner.
Right.
But I never really put that together, but no, those are all good guys in my opinion. So
nice. Reversing real quick, who are some of your favorites growing up that you and Grandpa were sitting watching besides Iceman?
Sting, absolutely love Sting.
Surfer Sting.
Yes,
okay.
Loved him from the beginning. I loved the Crow version of Sting. Just Sting all around. I absolutely loved the bright colors, the charisma, all that stuff. Rey Mysterio, love Rey Mysterio. One of the things that really drew me to him was being a smaller guy. And of course, he was one of the first luchadors that I ever remember watching, and learning that, getting to know what that style was.
Him and Hoovy, right?
Oh my gosh. Yes. I have a great Hoovitude story as well, but him and Hoovy doing their matches in WCW, and then any of the matches he had with like Dean Malenko and even Chris Jericho. And it blew my mind when he first out on the scene. So those two right off the bat, Sting, Rey Mysterio, loved Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. Of course, loved Ric Flair. I liked Ric Flair not because of his wrestling, but because of the persona.
Yep.
The flashy robes, the whole to be the man, you got to beat the man, the whole just, the suits, just everything about Ric Flair outside of wrestling drew me to him, to be a big fan. So.
Yeah. When did you start liking heels though? Because you named a list, because Flair, everybody at least one point loves Flair for what he did for the business and the glitz and glamour. But when did you because I think you have a little bit of heel in you. Like deep down, you like the Midnight Express, like I said back in the beginning.
Well, 99% of the places that I work on a regular basis, I am a heel.
Okay. You sound too nice to be a heel. I'm sorry.
Well, that's what's fun about it. And I think that's what a lot of promoters like from me is that I am a nice guy normally, but that's what makes me a better heel.
Yeah.
Because I can just take the gloves off and just be somebody I'm normally not, so yeah, so you've probably watched some of my matches as a babyface, but yeah, you should do a little more searching on YouTube where I'm a heel, especially any stuff that I did through a company called Metro Pro Wrestling out of Kansas City, Missouri.
Okay.
I worked for them for 2.5 years, maybe close to 3. And I debuted as a babyface and then had another match against another babyface. So it was like babyface. And then I turned heel. And from there, it was like somebody strapped a rocket ship to me. I took off from there.
I love that. Awesome. So we kind of talked that you had your first match three months into it. Let's go back to that first match. Tell me about it. What are your thoughts, backstage? Does your head explode once you come out of the curtain? Did you, as one of my past guests, piss herself in the first match?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I was a ball of nerves. I don't think once I got dressed and ready to go and once the show started, the 2 or 3 matches that were ahead of mine, I don't think I sat down. I paced so much backstage. The guy that I wrestled in my very first match, he'd been doing it for quite a few years. So I knew that I'd be okay, because I'm going in there with a guy that's got some experience. He was a big time heel in that company at the time. So I didn't have to do anything. It was my debut, brand new. The crowd hated him already. It was going to be easy for me. Right. So, but yeah, as soon as my music hit and I walked through the curtain and, there was legit 2,000 people in this building. And
for an indie show.
Yes. Yeah.
Holy crap.
Yeah. The first company I started working with, the guy who owned it and promoted it had a background in promoting boxing. So
he knew what he was doing.
Yeah, he knew how to promote. He had all the connections for advertising, sponsors, the whole thing. And it was based right in, St. Joseph, Missouri. So, and he'd been running there for a while. So he had a great following. And twice a year he'd run this big arena there in St. Joe called the Civic Arena. And that's where they do they do monster trucks and concerts and college basketball games, the whole thing.
Yep.
And I think full capacity, it's about 10,000 people. So twice a year he'd run a show there and he'd treat it like our WrestleMania. Like certain wrestlers had pyro, we did big loud music. It was a big production, really. And he'd bring in some sort of big name wrestler for autograph signings, stuff like that, to kind of help sell the tickets. But once the people seen what we offered, they didn't leave their seats. So, but yeah, I pretty much pissed myself as well.
Good.
Because that was the first time, like I said, I'd performed at talent shows and I played sports in school. So I was always in front of a crowd, but that was such a different feeling to walk out doing what I said I was going to do as a young child and finally fulfilling my dream. And yeah, it didn't hit me till it was all done. And I was like, holy crap, I just did that, but yeah, it was an experience, and I've forgotten a lot of things over the years, but I won't ever forget that.
Let's take a break from wrestling right now. Let's know a little bit more about you, like off days. Like what do you do? I would think you're roughly, throw me under the bus if I'm wrong, roughly around my age. I'm 45. Are you gaming, music? What do you kind of do with, the family and just like to chill? Do you still watch professional wrestling, or are you only in professional wrestling? Do you know what I mean?
Oh no, we watch it. My wife and I, big fans. If we can't sit and watch it, we will record it, watch it later. I keep up on all of today's product. We watch WWE, we watch AEW. Occasionally we'll watch some Impact. We'll keep up on NXT a little bit. I'm always online looking for other indies that are out there that's got online TV shows, anything like that. Yeah, no, I'm in wrestling. I don't just perform it on the weekends. I will watch as much of it as I possibly can. I'll even go back and watch some older stuff that, I may not remember watching as a kid. So kind of go back and refresh my memory. I got my notepad with me. I'm taking notes, to where I'll try to implement something I just watched into my match coming up. Like, well, matter of fact, I just watched something online today that's going to help kind of motivate me, and I'm going to try to implement in my match that I'm going to have later today. So yeah, no, we're big fans. But as far as outside of wrestling, I like playing video games. I got a PS4. I have yet to pull the trigger and buy a PS5.
Do it. It's well worth it. First of all, let me be this guy. Go on QVC. They have amazing. This is where I bought mine. QVC. They'll let you do like 4 or 5 payments, and there's a bundle. Do it. It came within 7 days. Just to let you know.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, well, I'll look into that.
Yeah.
Let's see. I've got 2 kids. I've got a daughter who's 26. I've got another daughter that's 15. Whenever I've got free weekends, we like to go camping. I still go to the gym 3-4 times a week. I have a grandson. He's 4, so I like spending time with him. And of course, we are big sports people. My wife was a big athlete in school. I played about every sport I could get my hands on. So we watch a lot of baseball, football, basketball. I got Sports Center on almost all the time. I love watching ESPN. And then sometimes if we have a lot of downtime, we just like to watch TV. So
you're living my life from you and Grandpa watching wrestling until right now. Like, as we're recording, college football is on in the studio just because that's it. I'm glancing over every once in a while. Yeah, it's what is in our blood. It's one of our passions. So yeah, you're the same person as me essentially. You do like the Chiefs, so I have to hate you on that. That's what it is. Whatever. You're a good team. They're a good team. I can't knock them. Do you live close? I don't know where Chillicothe is in Missouri. Do you make it to see the Royals at all ever? Are you around Kansas City then that you get to go to stuff?
Oh yeah. I live. Chillicothe is located about an hour and a half northeast of Kansas City.
Okay.
So we've been to the Royals games probably 2 or 3 times this year. We don't make it as often as I'd like. And then Chiefs game whenever we get a chance. Of course, right now ticket prices are just off the charts. So yep. I sit in the comfort of my home and watch the game. So that way I don't have to stand in line and go to the bathroom or go get a beer. So
exactly. Kauffman Stadium, is that what it's? I don't know. I'm going by old school. I will always call stadiums what I want. Like, it's going to be Heinz Field forever, not Acrisure Stadium. It's always going to be Heinz Field for us. Kauffman Stadium is one just because of the fountains. It's on, my wife and I are huge mascot stalkers. That sounds weird, but we like getting the pictures of mascots with the whole family. We hang them in our den or whatever. But Kauffman, the fountains have always been something I need to go see. So it's just one of those stadiums. So yeah, maybe one day we'll run into each other.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, I love Kauffman Stadium. They've done a lot of great things to it. They've remodeled it and they've added a few things to it over the years. It's a great experience, not just to go watch the game, if you love the game, but just to enjoy the atmosphere the atmosphere is great. And, it's the same way with going to Arrowhead when we watch the Chiefs. And I'm like you, it's called GEHA Field at Arrowhead. No,
yeah, no,
I will not waste my breath any more than what I just did calling it that. It's going to be Arrowhead Stadium for as long as I can say it, so it's.
Yeah. I found this out, and this is actually, I told you a little bit, I did some research, but when I found this out, I'm like, okay, this is what I really want to know. You had a couple tryouts and have worked with WWE through your years as well.
Yes.
How's that, jump around and get into you in Missouri, and you worked the Royal Rumble this year? Did I get that correct?
Yeah, I was backstage. I didn't get used for anything, but I was there backstage. Yeah.
Nice. By the way,
yeah, and
my favorite pay-per-view of the streaming live event, pay-per-view of the year is the Royal Rumble. So congratulations.
yeah. Oh, thank you. That's something else we have in common. Royal Rumble is my number one favorite as well.
We clearly, I'm going to yell up and tell her, hey, we're going to Missouri next weekend. No.
I since 2015, I have worked for WWE off and on, and I've gotten to be used for quite a bit of stuff. And then there's been a lot of times where I'll go and I don't get used for anything at all, but I still get to be there. So I just recently was in Kansas City for Monday Night Raw when Braun Strowman made his return. I was the first security guard to get to run into the ring, and I got my head taken off by Braun Strowman.
Nice.
So
now I have to. It's on DVR. I've watched it, but I saved them for a couple of weeks to revert back to on messages or notes on our weekly show. So I'm gonna have to go watch your head get ripped off now.
Yes, yeah, it was quite the experience. So, I bet I've actually lost count how many times I've went and done some work for them. But yeah, back in January of 2020, before things, shut down and everything, I worked for WWE, I think 3 or 4 times in the month of January. And 2 of those times, I got to have a tryout match before they let people in. There was no, it wasn't on camera or anything like that. It was me and another local indie guy that I've wrestled a bunch of times. We got paired up and we got to have about a 5-minute tryout match.
So that's roughly, because I said I've been rounding all day, about 22 years into your business. So that's roughly 20 years into the business. How is that? Can you kind of think of yourself as maybe 2 years into the business, and then where you actually had that tryout at 20 years? What's going through your mind? Is it like, man, I've been in this for 20 years. If I do good, awesome, I'll go with the WWE. But if I don't, damn it, I'm kicking ass and taking names on the independent circuit. Like, were you happy? Were you gratified? Were you like, what's your thought process essentially once you have that tryout after that long? Because some people don't get a tryout ever.
Yeah. Well, and then there's some people who get a tryout within 6
Weeks.
months to it. Yeah. When they've only been in the business for 6 months to a year. I actually have a friend she got signed to NXT, and she'd only been in the business for like 3 years, and she went and did the right seminars and tryouts to where there were people watching, and she got signed about 2 years ago. So, no, I was extremely happy, and very grateful for the opportunity to get a tryout, even though it was really late in my years. Because let's be realistic, you were talking about age. I'm 48 years old. With
a couple years on me then. Okay.
I'm 48 with 22 years of having my body beat up. Obviously, the window for me to have any sort of shot at WWE is probably closed. But I still get brought in and used, so, and I'm okay with that. I really am. If I never, from now in the next couple of years or so, because I've already got a kind of a timetable set when I'm going to walk away. If nothing big ever happens other than what has happened with like WWE, or even if I happen to get an opportunity with AEW or anything like that, I feel accomplished because I did have those tryout matches. I feel accomplished because, let's be real, I have the check stubs that say I got paid to work for WWE.
Yeah.
So that to me, in a way, is a goal fulfilled. Not 100% fulfilled, because obviously the goal, was at the beginning and still is, to be a full-time person with a big company. Will it happen? Probably not. I've gotten okay with that idea, but I still feel blessed, accomplished, and very satisfied that I've had the opportunities I've had so far.
To piggyback that then, what is wrestling brought to your life? It could be in ring, it could be family, it could be any, like, what is, besides that sense of accomplishment, what has it really brought to you personally?
Wrestling's brought to me, really happiness. I absolutely thoroughly enjoy everything about wrestling. Just like anything, there are the bad side of stuff, but overall, it's brought me a lot of happiness and joy. It has brought me a lot of friends and great opportunities to meet wrestlers of the past, managers of the past that I grew up watching with my grandpa. It's just brought me overall joy. I mean, it really has. Obviously, it hasn't made me rich, but really, as far as like memories, I'll have memories and stories to share with my grandson once he gets older to understand them. And just the friendships that I've built over the years. I've got friends spread out all over the Midwest. Because I even made friends with a guy who lives in Italy, so it's like, it's brought me a lot of just joy, really, overall.
Isn't that, this is something my grandfather said to me, he'd rather be a poor, happy man with memories than a rich, sick man with no family.
Yeah.
Isn't that well worth? I mean, yeah, you have the check stubs from WWE for whatever it was. You're not a multimillionaire, but isn't it more precious to have that you can tell your grandson, look, Braun Strowman ripped my head off 2 years ago, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's, it means a lot to me that I've been able to do something that I loved as a kid, that I have aspirations to do something else, like, play football, play baseball, something like that, because I love sports. Sure. Just it's not how it worked out. And not everybody gets a chance to fulfill that dream, so, but yeah, no, the memories and the stories that I'll have, is definitely, something I'll always hold dear. So
Indie wrestlers, a few that I've spoken to in the past years, said they would like to write a book then about some of the stuff that they've done in, just for their family, essentially. Maybe a low run copy or anything. Have you ever thought about that? And then, because you're still in the business, and thought about, are you training as well for any of your promotions that you're working with? So I thought maybe the book to go hand in hand for stories, and then you can make those stories into, training sessions as well. Did you think about any of that?
No, I probably could make a small book. I don't know about like
I'm not saying War and Peace now. Come on. No.
But, no, yeah, I've often thought about it. I've thought about, there are things I wish I would have kept better track of, from the beginning up to now, to share as stories, maybe in a book or something. And yeah, I still go and occasionally train. One of my best friends in the wrestling business started a school a few years ago, and it's less than an hour away from me. So when time allows, I go get into one of his training sessions. And most of the time, I'll sit outside the ring and watch the young kids that he's been training and just watch what they do and how they're doing it and how quick they've picked up on it. And a lot of them like to just sit and talk to me. And so I'll share stories of this or that, or how I've done this, or how I would do this or that, as well. So I've had that opportunity to pass on a little bit of that knowledge myself, not really in a full on, like I'm the trainer type of situation, but anytime any brand new person in the business wants to sit and talk to me about that stuff, I'm all for it.
Because you want to give this business, and this is going to be turned into something bad, so hold on for a second. You want to give this business a better outlook than maybe it has in the past, right? Because
oh yes,
let's pull the punches here right now. Wrestling has been, air quotes, dirty a little bit. It is slowly being cleaned up. What's your number one thing, though, right now that still needs to be erased? If you could wave a magic wand over, what's the thing that grinds your gears that still isn't where it needs to be in, like, today's society?
Oh, my gosh. There's a lot.
There is a lot. I agree. I agree.
Well, I really wish a lot of what we're seeing now as far as wrestling, I really wish a lot of it was more, there's a bit more psychology brought back to it. Make stuff mean more. Nothing really gets me going other than when I'm sitting and watching, whether it be AEW or WWE, anything like that, where a guy is hitting all these spectacular moves. Now, granted, I love watching the athleticism. It's awesome, mainly because I can't do half the stuff that I see on TV.
Understand.
But being a bit old school like I am, when you hit somebody with a big, huge move that has been typically known as a finish move, and they kick out and basically hop right back up and act like nothing ever happened, that's not good. That's not good psychology. That's not telling the story of what just happened. That's just, you're just watching a train wreck, happen and basically a circus act. So if it's one thing that I could clean up, and you see it, you see still some of the old school sprinkled in there now. But if I could clean all that up, that's something that I would, and that's to bring back when somebody hits you with a finish move,
you're dead.
It's one and done. You don't have to hit 10 of them. Now that's not to say, for example, Wardlow on AEW, right? He hits guys with anywhere from 5 to 10 power bombs. Okay, I get it, because that's telling the story of how dominant he is. But he's one of the few exceptions to the rule. I really think if you bring back more psychology and more of the storytelling from bell to bell, I think that would make the product better.
You listen to our show or something, because we wave that flag every week. We really do. It's the storyline. It's the psychology, because in a massive storyline, there's matches. In a match, there's a story being told. Thus another storyline. Like, I want because I'm old school like you, I want the wrenching of the arm when the Anderson slam or something like that to work over the arm. This guy is uber athletic, and I always throw him under the bus, so he'll probably never give me the time of the day if I ever meet him. Ricochet. Man, I can't watch one of his matches because he's doing cartwheels, this, that, and the other thing to drop an elbow. Dude, I know you can do it. It didn't tell me anything. So, yes. Right. So, yeah. Iceman didn't say that. Don't throw him under the bus, folks. Mark did. But, yes.
Yes. Yeah. The whole less is more. I don't think that's taught in a lot of places. I know my buddy that has his school, that's what he teaches, because he was trained by St. Myers.
Okay.
And so my buddy is real old school. He's been doing it for as long as I have. So he's real old school. That's what he's teaching all the kids that have signed up to learn from him. And I believe that's why his students are already steps far ahead compared to somebody that's been in the business for 2 or 3 years. And so,
yeah. A couple more questions, and then I'll give you the floor for whatever you want. This is one of my favorite ones that I have written, and I'm going to add one word to it.
Okay.
Can you sit back now and kind of like fly over yourself as you and Grandpa are watching wrestling and say, damn it, I made it? Like, I added Grandpa, because normally it's just yourself, but like as you and Grandpa are sitting there watching wrestling, are you pumped that is what started it all, and you're just yes, you made it, and Grandpa's super happy for you?
Oh yeah. I'm happy that I have made it to where I'm at. All because of what he introduced me to. I really wish he would have been alive long enough to see me do it.
Right.
That would have been the icing on the cake. But yes, I could look down on younger me sitting next to my grandpa watching Saturday Night Wrestling, Sunday Night Wrestling, whatever it was, and me looking at him and say, I really want to do that. And him just kind of chuckling at a little kid saying, okay, sure. I definitely, feel good about saying, yeah, I definitely made it. I set out to do what I said I was going to do, and still doing it. So
before the final question, best advice that you can give kids that want to get into this business, that listen?
Well, besides what we covered earlier in the show, and that's to find a good trainer with a good reputation, a good trainer. Yeah. One piece of advice that I can give that, is listen, always be willing to listen, always be willing to learn. No matter how much you think you know, you don't know. 22 years in, if somebody with the same amount of experience as me tells me something that I don't know, I'm going to listen. Never stop learning.
Well put.
I mean, always be a student of the game. Always.
I like spinning that a little bit. I am a huge advocate on you should learn something different every day and continue to grow. Make it your 1%. That if you're 1% better today than you were yesterday, that's awesome. So that's why I'll piggyback that. Yes, in the wrestling business, always do that. You should do that in life as well.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. No, that piece of advice doesn't just hold in wrestling only. Yeah, that's something that I try to drill into my kids' head too.
Good luck with that. I have a 16-year-old. Good luck with that.
Yeah. Well, even my 26-year-old still doesn't listen to me on that. But no, sir. Yeah. Always be willing to learn. You're always going to run into somebody that knows a little bit more than you do. And if they're willing to share that knowledge, learn it, listen to it, use it,
For sure. All right, last one I have, then I'll let you do your spiel. You can go back in your prime, whatever in their prime. I love this. I want your dream match. I want where, who, and what stipulation you would have in the match.
Well, back before my body got really beat up, I would have loved to have had a match with Rey Mysterio.
Nice.
In his prime and my prime. Of course, I think Rey Mysterio is doing exceptional work now.
Yes.
Just like he always has. But I would have loved to have had that opportunity. Since Kansas City's basically hometown, do it in Kansas City. And I really don't know what a stipulation would be.
I would have to think with Ray, then you're doing an Iron Man match.
Holy cow, yeah. That's something I've never done is an Iron Man match. So
30 or 60, you could pick whatever one you want, but I would think anytime I think of an Iron Man match, I think it's 60, the whole Broadway. So
oh, sure.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. No, that I mean, I've had a 45-minute match before. So a 30-minute Iron Man, I get it on the indies why most people do a 30-minute one, right? Because obviously everybody's attention span is shorter.
Like a gnat, right?
Yeah. So if you tried to, which I've seen it, I've been on shows where they've done 1 hour Iron Man matches, and people have been into it. But that's a rare thing. But yes, I'm with you. If you say Iron Man, I think 60-minute.
There you go. I just made the match. You're going to make it happen. All right. Before you give us your merches and your socials and where you're going to be and all of that, anything I forget that you want to, tell everybody about more, or if you have a whole load of stories that you'd love to release, you are always welcome back on to chat more about stories. I know you said something about Hoovy. I will say that one.
We can definitely save that for another time. But yeah, it's right up there with one of my favorite stories on the road. I'll just leave it at that. It was very interesting.
Okay, that's a teaser. We have the ice. We're going to book this once we unhit the record button. We're going to book this, and Iceman will be coming back on. But until then, where are you going to be? I know you said you have as we're recording, I know he's got a match later on tonight, but this only comes out Wednesday. So what do you have moving forward, and how can people watch you in socials and all that stuff?
Well, after today, like I said, as we're recording, I will be on September 24th. Good thing I'm sitting next to my calendar here. September 24th, I will be out in Olathe, Kansas for a company that's pretty brand new, called Trailblazer Championship Wrestling. I just found out I'm going to be in a 6-man tag that night, with a couple of good young upstarts in the area. October, I will be all over the place. I will be in Granite City, Illinois, October 1st, Eldon, Missouri, down by the Lake of the Ozarks, Missouri, October 8th, Harrison, Arkansas, October 15th, Quincy, Illinois, the 22nd, and there's a possible another opportunity that I'll be going back to WWE in October as well.
Woo-hoo.
So,
and you're really good about posting your stuff on your socials. Like,
oh yes,
earlier when I got on, everything's right there.
Yeah. No, I'm big about promoting where I'm going to be at. I love trying to help whatever company I'm going to go work for. I want to help them. Whether that person's buying a ticket because my name is attached to it, or if it's somebody else's name, I want to make sure that promotion succeeds. Right. So, and that's something else that bugs the crap out of me is a lot of wrestlers, especially the new generation, they don't think it's their job to promote the shows. They think it's just the promoter's job. Well, that's another piece of advice, if I can go ahead and throw that out there, that help promote the shows. Because the more people that are there to watch, that's a more opportunity for you to sell some merch. Or that's another opportunity for the promoter to make a little bit of money so he can put on another show so you could come back. But anyway, that's a little bit of taste of where I'm going to be at over the next month. I am pretty much booked up almost every weekend until the end of the year.
Good. The fourth wall, does your wife go all the time with you? Kids go?
She goes once in a while.
Okay.
Yeah, she's not a huge fan of
you getting your ass trips. Beat up, or okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, she don't care about that. She actually doesn't cut me any slack whatsoever. If I come home beat up and sore or hurt, because she's like, well, you do it yourself, The little side note, just because my wife's not here right now, that's how I got her to go on. Well, that's how I attempted to get her to go out on a date with me before, we started seeing each other on a serious basis, was I used the fact that she's a wrestling fan and I'm a wrestler. I used that as my pickup line, and it didn't work.
Oh, it didn't work. Oh, no, I was sitting here laughing, saying, "Oh, and that's the way you got and it didn't work." Oh,
no, it did not. Matter of fact, she turned me down a couple of times before she even said yes to the first date, and it had nothing to do with the fact that I'm a wrestler. It just, I think she finally got tired of me asking, so she decided to say yes, and we've been together now for 9 years and married for 6. So, she'll go with me occasionally. My oldest daughter will go once in a great while. My youngest daughter will go as long as we get to bring one of her friends. She doesn't just want to go on the road trip with mom and dad by herself. So
Yeah, it's not cool. It's not cool. I understand that. Yeah.
no. So as long as she can bring a friend, it's fine.
Yeah.
And my grandson has actually came and watched me wrestle, I think 3 times now. And I think I may have mentioned earlier, he's 4. So he can kind of understand what's going on. And he does not like it when grandpa's getting beat up.
That's awesome. I don't mean that it's awesome. He doesn't like it. That's great that he doesn't like when grandpa's getting beat up.
Yeah.
But you're paving the way mentally for him. You are.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a video. I can't remember if it was shared on Facebook or not, but I know I have the video of he's sitting on, I think, my daughter's lap or one of her friends. And he is screaming because it's during part of the match where I'm getting just the crap kicked out of me. And he is screaming and yelling, "Get off my papa. Get off my papa." So like you could almost tell that he was wanting to get down and run to the ring. So
the boys will work him over. The boys will
That's
work
right.
Yeah.
But so anyway, but yeah, no, I do. I post wherever I'm going to be. I post it all over social media. The week of the show, you'll probably see the same thing posted from me repeatedly because I just want everybody to know that, hey, it's coming up. It's coming up. Like today, one of the first things I did when I got up and around, poured me some coffee, jumped on Facebook, shared the poster for today's show. So,
yeah. Give your socials so everybody can follow you as well. They'll also be tagged because we do that as well, but just for people, yeah.
Well, you can find me on Twitter, and that is at the Iceman for Eva, not ever, Eva. That's the Iceman, the number 4 EVA. Believe it's the same thing on Instagram. You can find me on TikTok. I do some TikTok videos.
Oh, I have not found you there, so I need to get that. Okay.
I can tell you it's not a lot of wrestling content.
It's okay. It's even better.
It's just more me because I like to perform in front of a camera. It's just more me, just being me, really. I did a dancing video of me on the treadmill at the gym the other day. I did a dance the other day because it was Chiefs game day, so different things like that on TikTok. It's fun. You can also find me on Facebook. I have a personal page and I've got a Iceman page. If you type in the Iceman, you'll find both of them. So that's where you can find me on Facebook. And I do have a YouTube channel, but I try to put a bunch of stuff up there if I can get my hands on the footage of each one of my matches. So, but my 2 on-screen appearances as far as getting physically beat up at WWE is on YouTube. And one of them is I took a Claymore kick from Drew McIntyre. And then the other one was most recent when Braun Strowman took my head off.
Loving working for WWE. Working for WWE.
So yeah, you can find, I'm basically on all the socials, except for the dating apps. You can't find me on there.
Grinder or anything like that. Yeah, good,
No.
because
No,
you wouldn't. Yeah. Merch to sell. If somebody reaches out to you and says, "Hey man, I really like Iceman. How can I? Do you have 8x10s? We have shirts, anything like that."
Yes, I've got 8x10s, trading cards, stickers, buttons, sunglasses. I do have a store on Pro Wrestling Tees. So you can get all my Iceman t-shirts on there. I got like 4 different designs on there. Just go to Pro Wrestling Tees and look for Iceman. And it's on there.
There you go. Iceman, it's been a pleasure chatting with you. I know you're ready to run, getting ready for your show. We'll settle down and get the next episode set up that we can hear some of these road stories because we're excited to hear that. And this is the tease. You love performing. So we'll need you to sing Vanilla Ice when you come back on.
Well, we will see about that.
You're supposed to say yes. That was the tease. Without a doubt, you're going to do that, and then we'll just forget about it, right?
Oh, well.
It's like a WWE storyline once in a while. It just gets dropped.
Right. Well, maybe I'll have some adult beverages before I come on next time. And
nice. We'll have adult beverages together then. There you go.
Well, maybe we'll have to do this on the Zoom or something and do that. So
we will. We will. All right, buddy. Again, thank you for coming on, spending a little bit of time, getting to know you. Again, we'll wrap back around with you here in the near future and get some of these awesome stories. Best of luck tonight. Break a leg and do your best. And it's awesome. I'm glad I got to speak with you today.
Yeah, it's been fun. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was the Iceman. What an awesome interview. From learning something about hometown Chillicothe in Missouri, about being the home of sliced bread. Yes, I'm telling you, that story was real. We were having some drinks over at a friend's house. Shit got a little bit real, and we're like, where did sliced bread come from? And when I saw that, and just relating that we had maybe just spoken that day, and me doing a little creeping on his Facebook to learn more about the Iceman, I saw that hometown, and I'm like, wait a minute. I needed everybody to know this. So if you don't know, now you know that sliced bread right there in his hometown. Wow, we're so much alike. We really are. Like the whole story about Grandpa and watching wrestling, and then essentially sit down, shut up, and watch this is my childhood. That's exactly, just like I said on the podcast, that's exactly what happened over at my grandpa's house when I discovered wrestling. I loved it. I love that we got to talk a little world class. I always call it WCCW. People are like, wait, what? But I love that we got to talk about a little world class, because we don't get to talk about that a lot. Some of the younger people that we have coming on the show don't get world class. They don't know about it. It was definitely gone way before. But I knew the Iceman was one of them. I knew in the comparison. I did. And it was a pretty easy comparison for me. And he liked the Brian Christopher one and then in the KO because of his stunner. I loved it. Great interview. I loved how honest he was, and he talked about how his family are still huge wrestling fans. Like, come on. This guy is like pseudo, well, I guess he's a little bit older than me. So I am pseudo him, a couple years younger. We could go hand in hand together. Sports, wrestling, family, that's what it's about. In the advice, guys, it's question, listen, sit, learn, do all of that. And yeah, you'll be okay. I love it. This was a great, for me, dad interview to sit back and speak with somebody essentially my age and just reassure that he's doing the right thing for wrestling when he goes to the training, and he just sits, and if he gets questioned, he'll give that advice. But he's also there for training too, because he knows that little bit to today is that 1% to be better than yesterday. I love it. I love it. I love it. So, Iceman, thank you for coming on the show. We'll get it set up when he's going to come back, tell some stories. 20 years in the books, he's got stories. I definitely need to hear that Hoovy story. I do. And then maybe we can get him to sing Vanilla Ice. Remember, just because you're trash doesn't mean you can't do great things. It's called a garbage can, not a garbage cannot.